I suggest you read the Parallel World Pharmacy manga from the beginning of the chapter, because some scenes had skipped from the anime. I've put the manga link in the description, so you just click and read it. That's all the information I can convey. Let's move on to the last episode of Parallel World Pharmacy. The situation felt tenser when someone was seen watching the city from the top of the building. Then one of the imperial ministers came to the queen. He reported that 5 holy knights were now attacking the city at the gate. Queen Elizabeth told the minister to defeat the 5 holy knights with the imperial army. Then Bruno reported that this incident must have something to do with the smugglers in Estark village. Bruno was sure that someone had planned this on purpose and wanted to spread the bubonic plague to the empire. Bruno advised Queen Elizabeth to take medicine to prevent this plague. Currently, the manufacture of the medicine is in the process. Queen Elizabeth was very surprised after hearing the report from Bruno. She was confused about the goals of the Nettle country because they had cooperated with the Empire for a long time, and there was no reason to trigger this attack. The king of the Nettle country was just reported to have died, but there was no announcement of the cancellation of the alliance. Then Bruno said that the possible mastermind of this attack was someone who knew very well about the plague. He has knowledge of the wider pharmaceutical world and could even create an epidemic like this. 3 years ago, Bruno heard the news that the country of Nettle had hired an ordinary pharmacist. The person's nature and treatment method were very similar to the person Bruno had known when he was young. He is Camus, a genius pharmacist who has created various kinds of medicine. Camus is Bruno's best friend and attends the same grade. But unfortunately, Camus conducted a very cruel experiment on humans. Camus was taken to the church's inquisitor for trial, after which he was banished as a commoner and had his divine arts sealed. Bruno finds out about one of Camus' studies that have created a poison to be spread worldwide. This may be the beginning of the bubonic plague spread in the country of Nettle. On the other hand, the Imperial army was still trying to fight the Holy Knights. But sadly, they couldn't match the power of the Knights' divine arts. Then Salomon and the other members of the Inquisitors came to deal with the matter. Salomon immediately removed the power of the Knights' divine arts so they couldn't fight anymore. It turned out that Thelma decided to return to Queen Elizabeth's empire because he was worried about the city's state. Thelma immediately used his Eye of God to detect the bubonic plague all over the city. It turns out that many have been infected with the bubonic plague, and Thelma also just realized that there are animals that cause the spread of the plague to become widespread. The number of these animals was so large, and Thelma was sure that this could not be dealt with in a short time. Then Thelma immediately went to the source of the explosion from the Knights' attack. He also ran into Bruno, who was curious about the situation at Gate 6. Because they had lost the power of divine arts, the Knights were captured and interrogated by the Imperial troops. It turned out that the Knights didn't know that the animal they were scattering caused the bubonic plague. They only obeyed the orders of a man in the Nettle country. The man has been possessed by an evil spirit. All residents in the country have been held hostage by him, then die one by one until thousands of cases die in the country. There is no choice but to obey the man. This way, the residents can survive this death threat. Then Bruno stated the characteristics of the Camus he had met at the Church Inquisitor's place back then. The Knights confirmed the traits Bruno mentioned, then the Knights died after providing all the information. On the other hand, Charlotte panicked and worried because she didn't know the current situation. People not at Gate 6 could only hear the sound of the notification bell. This indicates that there are still enemies around the city, and the situation is unstable. After a few minutes, the bells finally stopped. Charlotte, the pharmacists, and the citizens had calmed down after not hearing a ringing bell. Then Charlotte wanted to go to Thelma's shop to pick up some medicine in the laboratory because she was sure that many people had been injured due to this attack. Cedric had time to forbid Charlotte, but unfortunately, she still ran to Thelma's shop to provide the injured people's first rescue. At the same time, Thelma also wanted to return to his shop to make new medicine. This is done only as a backup measure if the situation worsens. Bruno also told Thelma that this plague was caused by Camus, Bruno's friend, when he was young. Camus' heart and human instincts were damaged, so this man had to be killed as soon as possible. When Thelma was about to leave, he suddenly felt an evil aura around the city. After knowing this, Thelma immediately went to his shop to check the evil aura. Bruno had also just realized that the sound of the bells had stopped, so he ordered the imperial troops to ring the bells continuously. The bells should not be stopped before the situation is completely safe. After that, Bruno also went to Thelma's shop. On the other hand, Charlotte and Cedric had arrived at Thelma's shop, but strangely, they saw that all the windows in the fourth-floor laboratory had been opened. Then Charlotte rushed into the shop after Cedric unlocked the door. Charlotte thought that Thelma had returned to the shop, but Cedric had just realized something strange. The door was locked, but the window in the laboratory was open, so Cedric caught up with Charlotte quickly. Charlotte had arrived at the laboratory, and it turned out that no one was there. When Cedric also arrived at the laboratory, an incident occurred in this room. Finally, Thelma arrived at his shop and directly checked the situation with Eye of God. Thelma saw a person's body and an evil spirit in the laboratory. Not long after, Bruno also arrived at Thelma's shop, and they immediately went to the laboratory room on the fourth floor. Bruno told Thelma to take care of Charlotte and Cedric first, while Bruno would fight Camus alone until Thelma finished taking care of them. Thelma immediately checked Charlotte and Cedric, and he was surprised by the amount of poison in Camus' dagger stab. Thelma detected the poison one by one and removed the poison instantly with his right hand. After all the poisons had been removed, Thelma started to calm down. This was the first time he had encountered cases of various kinds of poisons converging in one body. While Bruno was still trying to fight Camus with the magic divine arts, unfortunately, Bruno can't match the power of Camus, who has been possessed by an evil spirit. Now, it was Thelma's turn to face Camus. Camus had explained his purpose in carrying out this plague plan, but I don't know what Camus meant. I only understood the point that Camus became an evil spirit because he was not strong enough to live his own life, where everyone relies too much on it, and this makes Camus stressed. Thelma was furious and couldn't forgive Camus' actions. He also didn't care about the reasons Camus revealed, and Thelma immediately killed Camus in his rage. Finally, Camus was killed. Charlotte and Cedric also came to their senses and approached Thelma at the back of the shop. Even though Cedric and Charlotte's bodies still had stab wounds, they could still move thanks to Thelma's divine arts. After this incident, Imperial City's residents renovated the city and Thelma's shop. Charlotte and Cedric were still cared for by Thelma until the stab wounds on their bodies recovered. All residents must wear masks daily during their activities and keep their homes clean because the epidemic is still happening. The production of the medicine bubonic plague is also increasing because many citizens are in need, either nobles or commoners. Pierre delivered Thelma's medicine to Baron, but unfortunately, Baron was still annoyed and didn't want to accept the medicine. But Pierre did not care and immediately left there to continue his work. Some people have recovered from the bubonic plague, and some have died. At the School of Pharmacy, Bruno's students are continuing their research to make a preventive medicine, the bubonic plague, and creating vaccines to overcome several outbreaks in medical records. On the other hand, Ellen immediately returned to Thelma's shop because in the city of Marseille there were already 2 of Thelma's confidants who could lead the quarantine. Long story short, 2 months have passed, and the bubonic plague is no longer in Queen Elizabeth's imperial country. Finally, the bazaar can be held without worrying about the deadly epidemic. Thelma's shop will also be reopening after a long holiday to prevent the occurrence of the Black Death. Charlotte and Cedric's body condition had also recovered thanks to Thelma's treatment. As usual, Mr. Jean always came to Thelma's shop because he wanted to buy vitamin candy here. Salomon and Pierre also came there to join the opening of Thelma's shop. Then Thelma was very grateful for Mr. Jean at that time. Charlotte received a gift from Mr. Jean because he missed Charlotte so much. After that, Thelma and his friends immediately reopened the shop, and many customers were already queuing up there. Then the Parallel World Pharmacy series ends in episode 12. Thank you for watching my other recap anime series from July to September, Black Summoner, Tensei Kenja, and Parallel World Pharmacy. See you in another new anime series in October 2022.